Hello and welcome. My name is Carol Carter and I'm the founder and CEO of Global Minded. We are dedicated to creating a capable and diverse talent pipeline to get more women, people of color, underrepresented populations into the education, economic mobility, and leadership pipeline. We do that in a number of ways. One is through our annual conference. This year it's virtual. That's what you're joining today. We also have first-gen leadership programs for students, and that will be taking place this year, the third week of June. Since it's virtual, there's no limit on who can attend that, so we invite all of your students to participate in that with us. We also have equity events every single month in STEM, technology, the health professions, K-12, higher education, and they are led by leaders of color with very diverse panelists. So we invite students to these sessions, faculty, business leaders who want to know how they can do a better job recruiting, retaining, and promoting diverse talent. Finally, we have Inclusive Leader Awards every year across 15 industry sectors. We feel strongly that we need to have diversity and inclusion experts who are household names as much as sports stars and movie stars. So Inclusive Leader Awards are another way that we provide those role models to our students. So we focus on connecting students to role models, mentors, internships, and jobs. And we're delighted to work with 1HE this week and Olivia Fleming, who has really put together an incredible day every single day this week, including today. And just a little bit about Olivia's background. She has 17 years of experience working in the higher education sector with particular focus on key challenges facing higher education at the global level. She's passionate about supporting the sector and positioning itself as critical to the development of society for social good. So I'll introduce Olivia. She'll share a little bit more about the incredible work that 1HE is doing to close the equity gap. And you will see today with these remarkable leaders from Equity Unbound, how they are also collaborating to achieve that. Welcome, Olivia, and all of your guests. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Carol, and great to be here. And thank you so much to Carol and Equity Unbound for providing the space for 1HE and our collaborators like Equity Unbound to talk with you today and share our experiences and knowledge. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to introduce the team here today, and then I'll give a lead into Maha, who's going to take over from then. So we have Dr. Maha Bali, and Maha is an associate professor of practice at the Center for Learning and Teaching at the American University of Cairo. She's a PhD in education from the University of Sheffield in the UK. She is co-founder of virtuallyconnecting.org, a grassroots movement that challenges academic gatekeeping at conferences, and co-facilitator of Equity Unbound, an equity-focused, open, connected intercultural learning curriculum, which has also branched into academic community activities, continuity with care, and socially just academia. She writes and speaks frequently about social justice, critical pedagogy, and open and online education. She describes herself as a MOOCaholic, a writeraholic, and a passionate, open, and educated educator, connected educator. So Maha, welcome. And also we have today Mia Zamora. So Dr. Mia Zamora is the Associate Professor of English, the Director of the MA in Writing Studies, and the Director of the Caines University Writing Project in Union in New Jersey, USA. She has recently received the Caines University Professor of the Year Award. Dr. Zamora's commitment to equity, digital literacies, data rights, and intercultural understanding is clear in both her scholarship and her leadership work. She has founded several global learning networks, including Equity Unbound and Networked Narratives, and was co-chair of ALTS in the UK #OER20 conference on care in openness. Welcome, Mia. And Autumm. Autumm Caines is an instructional designer at the University of Michigan, Dearborn, in the Hub for Teaching and Learning Resources. Prior to this, she held professional appointments at St. Norbert College and Capital University. She holds an MA in Educational Technology from The Ohio State University. In the Open, she is a co-director of Virtually Connecting, where her work explores questions of presence and spontaneity in synchronous virtual conversations, as well as equity and inclusion in online community. She also helps to organise and facilitate open, connected online events for the purposes of faculty development and her own practice in digital stewardship. So welcome, Autumm. And just a few words on Equity Unbound. Equity Unbound is an emergent collaborative community which aims to create equity-focused, open, connected, intercultural learning experience across classes, countries, and contexts. Equity Unbound was initiated by Maha and Catherine Cronin from the National Forum for Enhancement of Teaching and Learning in Higher Education in Ireland, and Mia, but it is open to all. Equity Unbound is for learners and educators at all levels, whether it's undergraduate, postgraduate, professional development, all who are interested in exploring digital literacies with an equity and intercultural learning focus in an open and connected learning environment. And their motto is, the only way to make borders meaningless is to keep insisting on crossing them. And I love that. Equity Unbound has teamed up with 1HE to develop some open educational resources for online community building. And now the team will talk you through some of the resources and how they work in action. And just a little bit before we go on 1HE. So 1HE helps educators in higher education develop their teaching practice by providing practical and engaging micro-learning on effective teaching in a safe and supportive global learning community. So for all the attendees today, I'll just do a little click onto the links. We are offering free access to 1HE platform until July 2021. So please follow the link here to register for free access. And also we support open educational resources. And so follow the link on our website to the Equity Unbound content for access to content that was always open and free. So I'm going to hand over to Maha and the team, and she will introduce some students working with us tonight, and we'll see the application of the work of Equity Unbound through their fantastic activities and resources. So over to you, Maha.
Assalamu alaikum, welcome everyone. Assalamu alaikum works any time of day, so it's 10 p.m. over here for us in Cairo and afternoon for you in the US. And it's close to me in the UK, I guess. So I have with me two of my students, Amina and Noha. They are graduate students, so they're actually student teachers. And in my class, they both used the resources and they contributed to the resources. So I'm just going to give them each a minute just to introduce herself very quickly. Amina, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Welcome, everybody. My name is Amina. I'm a teaching fellow at the American University in Cairo. I teach in the IEP, intensive English courses for undergrad students. That's all.
Go ahead, Noha.
Okay, well, I'm currently still a student in MA, my master's degrees in AUC for teaching Arabic as a foreign language. I worked for a year as an intern in the Netherlands, which was a great experience. And I contributed on 1HE, and I was so happy to contribute because it was a very useful resource and I really loved it. And I'm happy to be with all of you today. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Give me and Autumm a second to say hi, and then I'll start sharing the screen.
I'll just say hi. I'm thrilled to be here. Looking forward to sharing with all of you our wonderful resources around community building.
Hi, everybody. Autumm Caines. Wonderful to be here with all of you. Thank you so much.
Okay, and we will dive right in. This is the plan for today. We're just going to check in with you. We're going to sort of demonstrate some of the activities as we talk about the activities in the community building resources. We're going to do a chatterfall. We'll talk about intentionally equitable hospitality, which is one of the key values behind all that we do. And then we're going to showcase sample resources that we all either contributed or use in our own context. And we're going to end with one of the activities called a spiral journal, where we'll ask you to bring pen and paper and play along with us. So just to begin, we have this activity, Sleepless in Seattle, which is asking you, how are you, but also where are you? So kind of like I'm saying, I'm excited in Cairo, Egypt. What about you? Tell us in the chat. How are you feeling and where are you? Especially during this pandemic, I feel like I have to start every meeting with a special how are you and how are you feeling? That's not just like for you to say, oh, I'm fine. It's about, you know, how are you today? How are you feeling right now? So I'll pause while you guys type in the chat. Re-energized in Denver, in Galway, so near Catherine Cronin. Aki in Yorkshire. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, just in a workout. Okay, I thought maybe a vaccine or something. Enthusiastically optimistic in Philadelphia. Hi, Miriam. It's good to see you here. I usually see you on Twitter. Hi, Michael. Feeling good to see you here too. Anita getting sleepy in Cape Town. Yes, you're staying up just like us, same time zone. Feeling great in Detroit, so you're very close to where Autumm is. And Maha is grateful here in Cairo. And Jinli, I hope I'm saying your name right. I know you, but I don't know if I'm actually saying your name right. I hope I'm saying it right. A bit sleepy. Warm weather. Yeah, warm weather makes me sleepy too. Layla, smiling and happy. Yes, excited in Cairo. All right, I got it. Hi, Valerie. And is she a colleague of yours, Mia? I think she knows who you are.
She's my student. Yes, a lovely student, a brilliant student.
And Katie saying healthy in Dayton, Ohio. Welcome, everybody.
Yes, welcome. So glad to get a feeling for where you are.
I always like to share the link to the slides early on in case someone needs to look at the alt text of the images, or some people just prefer to follow along there. And then you have them beyond now if you want to put comments for us later. So what we're going to do now is we're going to keep asking you to type in the chat. And of course, you can keep typing in the chat throughout the session, but we're also going to ask you some questions over here before we head into the details. So one question that, again, is really nice to ask during the pandemic, actually, is what's an unexpected thing that brought you peace or joy recently? I think it helps to just remember all the moments of peace or joy in the midst of a lot of other things that are not so peaceful or joyful these days. Oh, kittens. I wish I could see them.
Kittens, yes. That would bring me joy too.
Mia, you have flowers popping up in the garden. That's awesome.
Oh, so many. But it's iris time now, which is lovely. Oh, a walk with the dog is also.
Irises were my grandmother's favorite flowers.
They're very, what's the word? Dramatic. They're dramatic flowers. Oh, riding
Anita,
my bike.
the morning run in Kirsten Bosch Botanical Gardens in Cape Town are gorgeous. They're amazing. And now I just had that feeling because I was there. That was one of my last trips before the pandemic, and it's beautiful over there. I can't ride a bike outside of an exercise bike, so I'm jealous, Carol.
Riding a bike is a wonderful feeling, as long as the roads permit. Ducks on the pond, so peaceful. Perfect. Finding a new toy dinosaur in my front garden.
That's really funny.
I love that. You never know what you'll dig up. Miriam says coffee in the morning and seeing my plants.
Cicadas.
Oh, the cicadas. Oh boy.
Everybody's talking about them these days. It's like everywhere I look, somebody, I think I've had like 2 weeks of people talking about them.
Yes, because there's a 17-year hatching cycle, and it's the time again after 17 years, and they drop their exoskeletons and leave them everywhere and screech. Wonderful sister time. There's nothing like sister time. Perfect. That is joyful.
Right. For me, one of the things that brought me joy recently is discovering gratitude journaling, which I discovered as we were recording a resource for the community building resources we're going to share with you today. And it was especially great because when I had COVID, my daughter's daily practice of gratitude journaling helped her find things to be grateful for, even on the day I was diagnosed and, and everything was happening. And my students this semester, I've been encouraging them to do gratitude journaling, and they've also found it very useful. So it was gratitude about gratitude, really, about discovering how this practice helps you have better. And that's my daughter who's ignoring the fact that I'm in a session. Mia, do you want to read this question out?
Sure. What did students need this past year more than anything else? We wanted to start with that important question. We think in many ways, the work we're sharing with you today is a response to thinking about this question, but we'd love to hear from you about what you think students needed the most this year. Empathy, wow. Grace, understanding, yeah, empathy. Unconditional love, that's an amazing way to put it, and support. Compassion, kindness, resilience, understanding, to have someone to talk to. Absolutely, absolutely. Bandwidth. I like them to answer bandwidth because it's technical, but there's also this psychological and emotional dimension to bandwidth as well, being encroached upon and being overwhelmed and not being able to connect. Love it, Michael. In all the senses, yes. Yeah, not being overwhelmed. Hard to come by, right?
Okay. Soft deadline. Noha's talking about the practice that we had in our class, which is some people needed deadlines, some people really needed flexibility, so we just called them soft deadlines. If you need a deadline, follow it, and if you don't, you don't have to, and you don't have to feel guilty if you're late. It's good to see now. And so our why for for the community building resources that we're going to be talking about today, where Equity Unbound collaborated with 1HE, was many people, faculty or teachers, were new to teaching fully online. They didn't know how to build community online. Some of them were giving up on it. And then there was inequitable access, I think, to faculty development support. Not every institution has a big faculty development center. And even those centers were never used to supporting an entire institution. So how much could they do, right? And we felt a lot of the things that you mentioned about empathy and compassion and needing someone to talk to, they're all part of building community, right? And doing it online is more important than ever due to the trauma of the pandemic. But then how well can people do it? And even if you're good at it, with the trauma of the pandemic, it becomes a harder thing to do. And many people are going to be teaching synchronous. And we know this is not the default for online learning before the pandemic, but it's been happening, and that there will be inequities. So we wanted to approach this whole building community online during a pandemic with equity in mind. So Mia's just going to step back a second, tell us a little bit more about Equity Unbound before we talk more about these particular resources.
Well, I think actually Equity Unbound, was covered very beautifully by Olivia in her introduction, but I'll just say this because I think it's an important thing to say and make clear, is that you're all invited to take part in it. It's a network that's ever growing, and our work overall is focused on equitable, open, connected, and intercultural learning. So Olivia mentioned that it was founded some 4 years ago or so by myself, Maha, and Catherine. And the work we're sharing today, which is a partnership with 1HE, is something that we think is an expansion of that idea of equitable, open, connected, intercultural work. So yeah, next.
Okay, I think this is me. I'm up. So we wanted to talk just a little bit about what these resources are. and give you a little bit of a history of them. So the resources were born out of conversation inside of a virtually connecting session. Virtually connecting is a network, learning community of a bunch of folks who organize conversations around academic conferences, trying to bring together some people who can't come to conferences with people who can. And at the very beginning of the pandemic, a bunch of us were in one of these conversations, and that all of the whys that Maha just went over came up, right? All of these stressors of people talking about, community is one of the most important things that we need. It's one of the things that we're so fearful we're going to lose now that we're being, directed into this online environment. And how do we save that? And so the idea of creating a library, creating a curation, because a bunch of us who did spend a lot of time in these spaces, we have little tips and tricks, little techniques and things that we do, games we play in online spaces, both synchronously and asynchronously, to help build community in these spaces. And so Maha made it happen. She partnered with the folks over at 1HE because she's on the board there, started conversations, brought it back to Mia and I. And yeah, the idea was, let's get together, folks, and build this thing. And so it's a library, it's a curation, and it is a place for you to go and peruse these different activities. Each activity has a write-up. Many of them have videos that will show you and demonstrate for you the way that they run. The idea is for you to adapt these as you need to too, because there's all situations and classes, meetings, depending on where you're using these, it could be a little bit different. It's also open for you to contribute, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on as well, just to reiterate that it is an open curation. So we, if you see, if there's something that you do and you're like, it's not here in this curation, we'd love for you to submit it so that we can add it to the library.
Yes.
That's all. We can go to the next slide. Awesome, thanks. And then I wanted to also talk a little bit about intentionally equitable hospitality as a value that is underpinning the design of these resources. So what is intentionally equitable hospitality? This is another concept that came out of the virtually connecting community. Really asking hosts to think about, have an awareness of who has access, whose culture dominates when we're in these spaces, who has political power, and really getting hosts and participants to think about adaptation by design beforehand when we think about these kind of spaces, but also adaptation in the moment toward care and toward equity. It's not an easy thing to think about, right? It's not like a checkbox you can just check out. It's a challenge for sure. A big part of it is recognizing that hospitality is not a standardized concept, and welcoming people in, saying welcome, and inviting people in sometimes isn't enough. Sometimes we have to go that extra step and think about what means welcome to one person or one group might not translate, might not be the same for other people, and really thinking about what can we do to welcome people in. This is we have written a great paper on this, and this is just a link to the paper. I think Maha threw it in the chat there as well. So thank you so much for that, Maha. We can move on to the next slide.
All right, and we just wanted to show you like how the resources are divided into these different dimensions, so that you can more easily, I think, find the thing that you're looking for. So we have all these different ways of doing introductions at the beginning of a semester, and I think the key here is like all these different ways of doing it, but also ways of doing it synchronously versus asynchronously, which we think is also important to consider. And Autumm's actually going to talk about the safety considerations, especially with one or two particular activities. So it's really important to think at the beginning of the semester, you want to start building community, but you still need to build in safety and work on, you don't want to do something at the very beginning of the semester to actually mess that up. And then we also think it's important to do warm-ups at the beginning of every single session, or at least very often, right? So we've got several activities for that. And then aside from all of that is just how you set the tone for the course. And these are sometimes things that you do ahead of time, like syllabi and surveying students ahead of time and things like that. But there are also things that you do during the semester, like creating a third space, an informal space like a WhatsApp group or a Slack team or somewhere where students can chat with each other and share jokes and GIFs or vent or whatever. And we have all kinds of resources on just setting the tone. And then, of course, community building doesn't just happen at the beginning of the semester, it happens all the time. And so ongoing, if you're teaching online all the time, it can get boring if you're just doing the same kind of activities all the time, or if you're just doing an open discussion. And so we've got lots of different ideas for ongoing community building and interaction, whether it's synchronous or asynchronous, and especially the liberating structures, which we gave a special place. And we'll talk about them a little bit later, but these are very special ways of organizing and facilitating conversations so that everyone has an equitable opportunity to participate, but it also unleashes their creativity in a very short amount of time. And so they're really special in that sense. And then we've got some just documents with guidance and help where we're referring to other resources that are out there on the internet that you might find useful. Like, for example, there's a workload estimator. It's not something you're going to use necessarily in your class, although you could. But it's just something helpful for you because a lot of people are saying during the pandemic, try not to have too much workload on students, for example. Mia.
So yeah, I think that now we're going to sort of grab at a few of the activities that are in the curation just to give you a small highlights of the kinds of things that are there. So one of the inherent challenges in building online community is this question of trust. How do we come to connect with each other? How is trust built in online spaces? So one of the things that I've learned is that you cannot insist upon trust. Instead, it has to be something that emerges from small moments. And this is where stories come into play. There's secret power in stories. And so one of the examples here is the image gallery. It's a great warm up. It can also be a kind of reflective act at the end of a course or at the end of a module per se. But in essence, the paradigm here is that the online group comes together and looks at this image gallery, and everyone is prompted to think about how they feel and look at the images and then select one. What are you thinking about lately? What do you care about? And people are then asked to share something about the picture that they selected. And it is truly remarkable the kinds of connections that are made, the kinds of small stories that emerge from people interpreting certain images and connecting an idea and sharing in generosity that idea. So the crack in the concrete, for instance, with the growth, the small flower coming out, was a very compelling image this year at difficult times. Or the glowing piece of a puzzle that seemed to be that click in what's happening for someone. And people articulate something very specific about their experience through these images. So that's just one example of the way you can build trust through small stories.
Okay, a couple of items here about safety considerations. So Matt had mentioned that not all of the resources are activities, and there's several resources that are more considerations, write-up of different things, trauma-informed pedagogy, those kind of things. And I really wanted to recommend the one that's specifically about safety considerations, link at the bottom, and I think Matt is popping it into the chat there. This is a beautiful write-up of safety considerations by Kate Bowles, and she's just done a wonderful job of helping us to think about some of the considerations around safety, when we engage in community. First of all, we're always going to be taking a risk. I love this image that 1HE put of the water with the life raft, right? Many of us love swimming or boating or those kind of things. The water can be very dangerous. And so we think about ways to ensure our safety when we go into these things. So all community building will, I think, require some risk, but we need to think about that. What are the risks that we're talking about? So students, especially students who maybe deal with some anxiety problems, we put them in the spot. Okay, we're all going to get together. We're all going to, you need to talk. You need to give these like, you need to tell a story, or you need to reveal some personal items. They might risk in telling too much and then regretting afterward. Also, if you're doing something where maybe they're being asked to share something, somebody might share something traumatic. It could be, difficult for somebody else who's hearing those stories. It could be difficult for them as well. Two that are on the site that I would say maybe think about not doing these like right away. Maybe think about doing these once you have a better understanding of who the students are and you've already developed some of that trust that Mia was just talking about. Story of your name. This is such a wonderful activity. It's really great. People love it. But it can be, there's a lot of things that go into a name. A name is very personal, right? And people who are maybe worried, people who are dealing with some issues of danger, or maybe had to change their name for some safety reasons, they might have some problems with that, as well as people who are identifying as transgender. There's lots of reasons why telling the story of your name is something that could present some anxiety. The other one is a tour of where you are, where you ask students to turn on their camera and show their physical environments. If people aren't ready to do that, maybe they're going to feel uncomfortable doing that. So the advice in the article, which I definitely recommend that you go and you read, is be proactive, give time, announce that you're going to be doing these kind of activities beforehand, so that way students have time to prepare themselves to get ready for them. Make it okay for them to opt out. If they don't want to participate in them, that it's all right, that you're not going to, if you're in a teaching environment, like dock their grade or something like that. There's much more detail and it's much more nuanced if you take a look at the article. I just highly recommend it. It's a really, really good one. And then I wanted to also just set us up for another activity. So this is an activity that I contributed called Surrealist Portraits. It's a great intro in terms of really embracing creativity and challenging ideas of perfection. You ask students to bring a pencil and a piece of paper, or a pen and a piece of paper. You can ask them to draw themselves or to draw one another, but you introduce some element of constraint. You could ask them to use their non-dominant hand. They're not allowed to lift their pen off the paper, or give them a really short timeline, and think about drawing those portraits of one another. It's just a fun kind of activity. They can do each other or they can do themselves. And Mia has actually used it in classes. So I'm going to turn it over to her for some of the practical, how it actually goes down in classes.
Yeah, well, actually, one of my students who really enjoyed it is here, Valerie, but I'll say that all of my students seem to really love the surrealist drawing exercise. And I think it's because if the surrealists sought to release creative potential through the unconscious mind, then this exercise really taps into that. What I love about the exercise is the constraints, that make it awkward to draw, but then it makes people start to think about, what holds them back and what it feels like to break free and to find a free flow of creativity. I also love this exercise because it's a close cousin to what we call in the writing profession, or as a professor of writing, what we call free writing, which is when you just take pen to paper and let the ideas flow without any kind of concern around grammar or diction or saying things properly or in a perfectly articulate way. The flow that comes, the words that come in and of themselves are just fine, but that's how you tap into the ideas that are sort of lodged in the unconscious mind. So yes, this is a popular one for sure. Thank you, Autumm, for giving us all that gift. Oh, also another one that I want to tell you about is called Structured Dialogues, which is a liberating structure in the collection. But structured dialogues basically—
This one is Sherry Spilitz. It's not a liberating
Yes,
structure.
I was about to say was contributed by our wonderful colleague, friend, and educator, Sherry Spellick. But the thing that's magic in this one, I think, is that building trust and connection in community is really founded on listening and paying attention. So structured dialogues is an exercise that really helps people practice focused listening. It also helps them experience uninterrupted listening, which is very rare. I think it's really important to foster attention that's undivided in this day and age. So if we're striving to create an equitable community that upholds the value of care, then listening effectively and powerfully must be a part of that work. So check out Structured Dialogues if you're looking for that kind of orientation. It really does the trick in making people understand listening and the focus involved in listening.
And before I share mine, I want to tell you that even the ones that seem to be purely synchronous, we always offer adaptations. If you don't have breakout rooms, here's what you can do. If you don't have synchronous, here's what you can do. And so just putting that out there. So there's a couple that I want to talk about. One of them is called TRIZ. TRIZ is one of the liberating structures, and it's a very interesting activity in that it helps a large group divide into smaller groups and try to solve a problem, not by focusing on what your goal is, but by creating an anti-goal and going backwards. And it becomes funny and creative, but it also enables you to have some really difficult conversations in a relatively safe space. So I've used TRIZ in my classes with students to talk about issues of sexual harassment, which are culturally really difficult to talk about in Egypt, but we needed to talk about it. And it just sort of, because you're tackling it from this fun and creative way, they don't have to talk about their personal experience if they don't want to, but they can still talk about the difficult issues and come up with really creative solutions and identify the roots of the problem. And so you can watch a video of that one on the site and try it yourself. The other one that I really liked is PowerPoint Karaoke. This one was contributed by Jasmina Najjar from the American University of Beirut and Hoda Mustafa from my boss, actually, basically. And that was really fun. This one, the original way it's done is that you download a PowerPoint slide with just random pictures, and you have to tell a story, and people have to just react in the moment, and within 10 minutes finish the slide deck and make up improv whatever. So it's great for teaching like speaking skills, and it's fun. What I did in my class is that I used it while I was teaching students about copyright with images, my undergrad class, is that they learned to bring copyright-free images, and they would, a group of them would create a slide deck, and then another group would have to present the other group's slide deck. So it's a slide deck they've never seen before. And students really enjoyed this activity. They loved it. It was funny. A lot of them mentioned it in their final reflection. It's a light activity, but it also, we need this. Like, I think this semester especially, we needed that extra energy in our classes. And I'm just going to put a link here to all the liberating structures. I think you should try these out. I don't know if people here have tried them before. If you have some favorites that are not demoed on our website, let us know and we'll record them and add them. We're coming up on another summer, and I'd love to keep adding to them. I mean, I've just added like 12 from my students this semester.
Fantastic.
All right, and now I'm going to give some time to Noha and Amina to share some of their favorite activities from the site and the one that they contributed. So I'll give you guys like maybe 7 minutes between the two of you to do that. Go ahead.
Should I start?
Go ahead, sure. Sure.
So I tried the story of your name, and that was a success beyond my imagination, because I thought, yeah, it's okay. We will probably have fun. But I noticed that the groups of friends started to form after we did this activity, because it became more personal. And especially now that we are working online, we never sit together, we never share lunch. It's kind of, there's that distance that has to be in any class. But when we did this activity, I noticed that my students started to be interested in each other as people, not just as colleagues or competitors in the class. So it was really great success, and I was inspired by it. So I created my own activity, which is what we don't know about each other. And that was, it was anonymous. I created a Padlet, and everyone would write a fact that we all don't know. That included me. We don't know about them, and everyone put something that was for us either interesting or funny or shocking, and it was sing and everyone gave me a very positive feedback. People were so happy. They would laugh sometimes. There were moments of sadness, and people were touched because some like shared family stuff with us, and it was really touching. And I really think that it really had a great effect, and there was a great atmosphere between me and my colleagues. And I also put it on 1HE. Hopefully you will see it. I hope you will also like it. That's all.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Okay, can I start?
Go ahead, Amina.
Okay, so my activities,
Yes,
the activity I contributed is called I Wish My Student or I Wish My Teacher Knew. The reason I created this activity is that because when we speak about communication, if we agree, I think most of us would agree that it's a two-way street. When the pandemic hit and with the shift to online learning, we all care about exploring students' feelings and let them express them through reflections and other tools. There are wonderful activities that helps them to express themselves. But what about the teacher? I think students need to know how we feel as well, and we should express sometimes how how much we're confused, overwhelmed we are. The aim of the activity is to create rapport with students and to create a healthy channel for expressing our feelings about learning itself or life in general. So basically, students, I start by writing, I wish my students knew, and I complete this sentence either with one sentence or a paragraph. It can be like, I wish my students knew that I feel really happy when they ask me how my weekend was. So I think afterwards they start doing it a lot, and I can also comment about something they did in class, whether frustrated about, without mentioning names, of course. And they can do the same. They can say, I wish my teacher knew that I feel stressed when they call on me, or she calls on me, in my case. They can share their thoughts anonymously if they want. The activity can be adapted. It can be synchronous or asynchronous. It can be face-to-face as well. It's a very simple activity, and just the prompt helps them to write and helps teachers also to express their feelings. So that's all.
That sounds wonderful. I'm gonna use that.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Oh, you know that so many of my students' activities have been awesome. I've already started using some of them, and I haven't even had classes since then. I've been using them in presentations even.
Wonderful.
All right, and it's actually open for anyone to contribute, right? If you have an idea that you use, you don't have to create a video for it if you don't want to. You could just write in everything that's needed, give people links, give a template, whatever it is, contribute it there, and I'll see it, and then we'll hopefully get it to the site, inshallah.
Excellent.
Mia, Spiral Journal is one of the activities on the site. That is
Yes.
liberating structure and development, and Mia is going to lead us through this.
Sure. So
Grab
we're
a
going
pen
to
and
close with an activity that requires a piece of paper and a pen or pencil or as some kind of writing instrument. Yes. So you can go take a second to grab that, and I'm going to walk us through this wonderful exercise. In short, the spiral journal is a reflective activity, and Valerie, who's one of my students who's here in this webinar, mentioned that she especially liked reflection-oriented activities, and so do I. I think it's inherent in writers' sort of orientation to like the reflection. So what you'll do with your paper, we're producing a small journal together, and it will just take a few minutes. You want to fold once, the way I'm folding now, and then you open it back up and fold the opposite way. In essence, you're creating 4 quadrants on your piece of paper. So you have the piece of paper with 4 quadrants like this. To start your spiral journal, we'll give you about 1.5 minutes to spiral. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your pen and put it in the direct center of the paper, and then start to draw a very tight spiral. You know, basically you're spiraling outward from the center of the piece of paper. And I want you to draw it as tightly as possible. So you're not making an expansive one across the page, but one that's tiny and very close and tight. Well, so let's take a minute more to do that together. Okay, so that brings us to the 1 minute mark for the spiral. Now, the next thing you need to do is in the left top quadrant, you need to fill out the response to this prompt. Free writing, that just means write whatever comes to mind as much as you can in the top left quadrant. Lately, it's been important for me to Lately, it's been important for me to. Okay, so next we're going to start in the right-hand upper quadrant by responding to the prompt. The challenges I brought with me into this session are, again, the challenges I brought with me into this session are, Okay, so the next quadrant, oh, sorry, we gotta get that canceled. Sorry, stop timer. Right, the next quadrant, which is the bottom right-hand quadrant. One thing I'm taking away from today is, one thing I'm taking away from today is, okay, so the last quadrant is a question I have about the community building resources is, one more time, a question I have about the community building resources is, okay. So our journals are now complete, but there's one more step we need you to take. Look at what you've written and then really take it in, underline or circle something that stands out to you in the journal. What pops for you? What do you notice that's important? So now I think it's time to share one thing that stood out to you in your journal in the chat, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the thing that you underlined or circled, because maybe that's something personal to you. You can select what you want to share in the chat, but we'd love to read and see your feedback regarding the spiral journal and what came to the foreground for you and the reflection.
So Carol had already written a couple of things, I think. She said creative and joyous learning is one thing she's taking away. And one of the things that are important to her lately is finding ways to connect with others and have mental adventures when it is impossible, actually.
Mental adventure
To listen
sounds.
to everyone else's.
Silence in sessions like this is okay and important. I think so too. Yes. Diversity.
Saying diversity is a main concept
in learning and teaching. Yeah. How to teach creative and unique as well as electronically. Yeah. Yeah. Creatively, uniquely. And Leila says community building activities don't need to be complex or overthought, but simple things to help make little connections that can grow into bigger ones. I love that. Absolutely. That I can have another community I can tap into. Yeah, I think that's another thing we always like to try to get across, is just that learning can be like a series of networks, right? So we hope we're modeling that today. Oh, how do you, so I mean, Amena asks, how do you choose the pictures for the activities? Yeah, it depends. I think it's the curator, the one that is at the helm, but it's really Maha who chooses quite a few, but the curator at the helm is typically
Nikki actually is
Nikki too.
Nikki Spalding
Yeah,
does it.
that's a talent.
Occasionally I give feedback, but she chooses. I think what I actually learned this from Alan Levine, who's a friend of ours and who collaborates with me very closely, is that when you're searching for an image for something, don't just search the term that you're looking for, search around it. Think about all the other terms that relate to it. So like when we were thinking about the safety for that, we took the image that Nikki had chosen with the raft, but we were trying to think of all the other things and none of them was gelling with this because you were just searching the exact word, you know? So you got to sometimes try to search around the same word and you'll find something that way. But also good sites like Pixabay is a good site and Unsplash is a good site, and they have free images that you can reuse without attribution, which helps for this kind of thing because you don't want to use an image that you need to pay for and then discover you've done something.
Nikki says she really enjoys doing it, and she mentions Dasha too in picking them. Anita says working with students energizes her, and she also realizes there's more she can do to engage them. So that's a wonderful takeaway, I think. It is, I think at this time, you know, when we're under a collective pressure, tremendous collective pressure, and the circumstances of the pandemic being so disheartening, the fact is that we have to think about what energizes us and what drains us, and then design around that, because the surge capacity within your own heart and head is a very important part of making things work and making things meaningful. So it's nice to hear you say that, Anita.
There's a couple questions in the Q&A. One of them is, how do you adapt these activities to face-to-face? And when you see them, you'll see that they're all adaptable to face-to-face. There's almost nothing that isn't. The only thing is if it needs like a Google Doc or something, you can still use that face-to-face if your students have their phones and they're able to use them. And if not all your students have phones or whatever, you can do them in pairs. You know, that kind of, most of the stuff is easy to imagine in face-to-face. And then there's a questions about, are there any resources to teach instructional designers to use the activities and workshops for faculty? Again, what I've seen on Twitter is a lot of instructional designers and faculty that would just take them and then they just use them. You have to look, like you'll see there's a template, like for the Spiral Journal, for example, there's a template slide deck and there's a list of other prompts that you can use and you can just download it and reuse it yourself. And it's Creative Commons licenses, you can just reuse them for whatever you need.
I'll say really quickly, as an instructional designer who uses these with faculty, that I think they work wonderful in those instances. And I usually just bring in the URL of the entire resource, right? Because, and I use it as an example. I say, if you like this example, or even if you didn't like this example, but you like the idea of doing these kind of activities, we've got this whole library, we've got this whole curation that's out there for you. So I think it works wonderful as an example for faculty.
I use them in my department meetings too.
Oh yeah, it's not just for teaching. Absolutely. It's for gatherings. Like, how do we gather together intentionally and make them meaningful? How do we move beyond like a cursory, just we're all here because we're told to be, into like building that connective tissue that makes for community? That's what this is all about. And I love the resource so much. I just go to it like before I start teaching every time, and it's like a roulette wheel of great things to choose from.
Okay, our time is
Valerie's
up.
time
Olivia,
is
do
up.
you
Okay.
want to wrap us up?
Yes,
You
can hear me. Yes, I just want to say thank you for a fabulous session. I wrote down 3 words just to sum up what I've felt from listening and being part of this, and they are warmth, care, and empathy. And I really want to thank you as brilliant women in coming together and sharing your knowledge and wanting to also give back to others. And I would say as well that anybody else who wants to be part of it, Maha put up the fact that anybody can add in resources. So for us at 1HE, we want as many voices to support educators around the world. And, you know, it's a tough job at times, and we need to come together and share and support each other. So, and Equity Unbound and the women here all the women are doing a fantastic job. And I just want to say thank you. And I'll just hand back over to Carol now. And we have one more session left tomorrow, and we'll be talking about person-centered learning and inclusive learning with 2 UK academics. I'm looking forward to that as well. But to this team here, thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Olivia. Thank you, Carol.
Yeah, it was an absolute pleasure. And one of the things I didn't say about the theme of our entire 10 weeks of the virtual Global Minded is that the theme is Reboot Resilience, Rebound Remarkable. And I really feel like the energy from all of you and all your creativity and all your different ways of looking at things, I haven't seen that type of energy and like verve kind of come through during this digital time. And I think there's such a need for faculty to get the transmission of what you guys are doing, because I think that we've interviewed students all year and the kinds of things that they want to recommend for faculty so they can feel better engaged. And it's all these kinds of things. So I just want to acknowledge what an awesome experience for this, you know, hour, because like my word was like, okay, I feel fatigued, but like, I don't feel fatigued now. And if we can just bottle that up and get that going out there, then so many faculty can hold up so many students who are, you know, have huge needs and hurdles that they're juggling. And so I just see the capacity for this to resource so many people such a great way. And so Global Minded is looking forward to, you know, helping you all, you know, 100x your that's my big word takeaway is I had a blast the last hour. It was really fun and more to come. So thanks to everybody. And we hope to see you tomorrow for the session on person-centered learning and inclusive learning. And then next week, all week, we have the National Science Foundation and some incredible science leaders. The following week, our health equity team. And then we have our first gen leadership class, which is open to everyone. So please invite the students you know who could benefit from that. Thanks to everybody. It was really great. And I hope everyone has a wonderful night where you're 10 and 11 and 1 in the morning. And those of you who are, you know, 8 o'clock in the morning. So thanks, everybody. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Great job.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
Nice to see you all. It was a wonderful session.
Thanks,
All right.
Thanks, Celeste.
I'll have the recording in our newsletter tomorrow and on our YouTube page.
Great.
That's great.
Take care.
Bye bye.
Good night, Maha and Mia.
Good night,
Bye.
Maha.